It is coming up on 7:30. Welcome back to ARC Salt Lake, where we cover authentic, relevant, and community stories.
I know everyone has strong feelings about this and about what should be done and how it should be done, and there's right way to do things and there's inappropriate ways to do things, and I hope we're doing this the right way. I know a lot of people are upset at the judge's decision. I think it was a wrong decision, and what you do when you get a decision that you disagree with is you appeal that decision.
Well, that was Governor Spencer Cox answering a question about why there will be an appeal for the latest maps on Prop 4. And joining us now to discuss what this appeal means for the newly drawn maps is Emma Addams from the Mormon Women for Ethical Government. Emma, thank you very much for being with us this morning and your reaction now with this appeal from legislators.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So we did hear yesterday that the legislature intends to appeal, but we haven't yet heard any plans about the timeline for that appeal. So I think that's kind of, we're left with a few questions here. There are lots of different points, in the past couple of weeks since the map was put in place by the judge that they could have appealed, including an emergency appeal. But they chose not to until now. So we're waiting for them to appeal, and we'll be ready with the same common sense legal arguments we've made all along when that time comes.
Okay, and how do you respond to Senate President Stuart Addams claiming the voice of Utahns was pretty much ignored with the most recent map?
Yeah, so this case has been about Utahns from the very beginning. When Prop 4 was put in place, it was put in place with some fair and neutral redistricting criteria so that the voice of the people could be heard. The criteria is focused, functional, and fair. And the map that was initially put in place by the legislature years ago really violated all of that. The map that they had a chance to put into place this past fall when the judge gave them the opportunity to submit a map also violated those criteria. So I think that there's been lots of opportunities to put forth a map that met the redistricting criteria, and so now we have one in place that does, and we hope that one stays in place for 2026.
Okay, so Addams, as well as Mike Schultz, and even the governor have said that this is the most gerrymandering map that they've ever seen. And what is your reaction to that?
So I think, gerrymandering is measurable. There are things that you can do to kind of assess whether it's gerrymandered or not. And I think the biggest most common sense way to look at the map that the judge put in place is that it follows the natural political geography of the state. Utah is a diverse state. You have people across the state who have different political opinions. And a fair map, what it does is it follows the natural political geography, and it means that you respect how communities behave and connect and groups people with similar interests, and acknowledges that different areas of the state need different representatives. So not everyone's going to be happy with the map, and that's how you kind of know you have a good one. If everyone was perfectly happy, then we would have a problem. But the reality is there's going to always be those who are going to be unhappy with it. I live in the district. It's not the perfect map for me personally, but I believe it's the best map for those who live in my community collectively. Mm-hmm.
So specifically in this case, why is Mormon Women for Ethical Government so much involved and vocal about it?
Yeah, so we are a group that is cross-partisan. We have a very narrow selection of issues that we work on. My inbox is full of requests from people to work on this issue or that issue, and we choose our issues very carefully. They need to be things that benefit people from both parties. They need to be from all parties and independents, and it needs to be an issue that has to kind of get at the core of our democracy. And so this is one that, 7-8 years ago when we first got involved, our women, Democrat, Republican, Independent, they all felt like this is something we should, hang our hat on, we should work on. And so we've stuck with it since then. And I guess I would argue that in these sorts of issues where partisan interests are always going to rise to the top, it's really important to have groups like ours and women like ours involved who can work on it, across party, across partisan interests.
And a special session coming up next month as a result of all this. Your reaction to it?
Yes, well, I think we will be watching closely. We didn't really get a lot of details about exactly what would happen at the special session, and so we will be, paying attention. Our members, and I think at this point, Utahns have been paying attention for many, many years now, and I'm just seeing, a real surge in civic engagement and an interest in this issue, which I think is really good for Utah. So stay informed, read the news, watch the news, and I will have more information coming, hopefully.
So, what is your group doing now to prepare for this appeal that's coming up?
Yeah, so we have a really wonderful legal team who has, a lot of expertise in redistricting and understands the legal issues. We have made, I think, very solid legal arguments all the way along. The Utah State Supreme Court found in our favor, and then the district judge followed that ruling in her rulings. So I think we have those same legal arguments. They're common sense. They'll be, available, and we'll be making those again if needed when and if the appeal comes through.
So, even though the legislators say that the will of the people have been pretty much ignored, would you agree with that? Do you think that the legislature is ignoring the will of the people?
I think it's really hard for those who are in a highly partisan position to draw maps that are fair. I think that we see this in other states. We see this in Illinois, which is a Democrat state, which is a highly gerrymandered state drawn by Democrat politicians. So I think the bottom line is that it's hard for politicians to draw maps that fully reflect the will of the people, especially those that don't necessarily agree with them. And that's why you have a process and a commission that is laid out in Prop 4 in order to get us there. So this people voted for Prop 4. Majority of Utahns did, and I believe that they still want that in place.
Okay, Emma Addams, thank you very much for being with us. We know this is a very complicated issue, one that's confusing to a lot of people. So we'll continue to stay on top of it, sort through all the details. All right?
I appreciate the coverage. Thank you so much.
Okay, Emma, happy Thanksgiving, and thank you very much for being with us.